There's a time in our life that we all remember, a time that some of us might want to forget. But there's a society we were a part of that had unspoken rules, it had laws to it, who you were going to sit with, what you were going to wear, how you were going to act. That society I'm talking about is high school. It's your adolescence. It's you trying to figure out who you are. It's you trying to figure out through the mess of everything around you who you're going to be in life. Down the hallways of a school, it looks like just a building when nobody's there. But a bell rings and that society comes alive. You see the chaos. You see what's going on. You see the emotions that are happening down that hallway. And in the middle of this, you're going to find some people that aren't supposed to be there. They don't fit there. They don't fit in. They don't look like they belong to the society. Yet they've come back to be one thing, and that's to be God's light shining into the darkness. And these people are Young Life leaders.
In the middle of all that is where I want to be.
I want to be in the uncontrolled chaos that is part of it. I want to be in the middle of the emotional roller coaster that is high school.
I want to be where the passions, sometimes vulgar and profane, are happening.
I want to be where reckless facades hide broken hearts, insecurities, and fear.
I want to be where God's grace can shine, down a hallway that is left almost in darkness.
As long as there's brokenness, as long as there's hurting teenagers, as long as there's an enemy that can convince that they don't matter and that tomorrow doesn't exist, we'll be there as God's grace. We'll be there as God's light shining into the darkness. In the middle of that chaos is where we want to stand.
What's really cool for me is to see the Young Life leaders come into our school, recruit kids, and then those kids go on to recruit more and more kids.
The world of adults and teenagers is so far different, yet so much alike, both filled with brokenness and heartache.
I see kids who need positive mentors and role models in their life, and when we can have Young Life leaders come into our building and build relationship and rapport with students, it makes a huge impact. I see Young Life Club as a place where kids feel accepted and a sense of belonging. And it doesn't matter what walk of life you come from, these kids feel accepted. They feel it's safe, they feel like they're missed if they don't show up, and they feel a true sense of belonging.
As a teacher, I think it's easy to teach to the students who want to be taught to. And I think that Jim and the Young Life staff do a great job of reaching out to all students, not just the group that wants to show up and be taught.
And we want to be a glimpse of this light into the darkness. Because on this one side, you have this darkness. You have this chaos, you have this brokenness, you have these walls that kids have built up around them. And why is it even more apparent in kids' lives? It's because it's right there on the surface. Because they're trying to figure out what it means to become an adult. They're trying to figure out what it means to go from a kid to a teenager to now this adult world around them. And on this side, you have the light. You have the only light that can heal, the only light that can break through those walls. That's God's light. And us as Wildlife leaders and Young Life leaders, we want to be just a glimpse of that light in the schools.
Students are so excited, and there's just such a magnetic, positive feel when the Young Life staff comes in.
Young Life presented the gospel differently than I'd heard before, and it was more simple. It was in a way that I understood. There wasn't a lot of extras. It was just, this is the gospel. This is who God is. This is where you're at, and this is who Jesus is, and why He came to this earth was for you. So it was, every week there was a simplicity about it, and I understood it.
When I went to Young Life for the first time, I realized who Jesus was, the whole process of the cross, what that meant, what my sin meant, all of that stuff. And so my Young Life leaders are the ones that actually took me to the foot of the cross to where Jesus was.
I think Young Life does the most accurate job of any organization I know in the Christian world of presenting the gospel in its true form.
And the gospel that I heard about Jesus was this God that loved me, that wanted to have a relationship with me, that really cared about me. And it was something that I was looking for. And I realized in a very short order that that's what I needed. And so for the very first time, that God that I was aware of became very personal to me.
You don't have to move to a certain point before Christ accepts you, or you don't have to move to Him in order for Him to accept you, but He comes to where you are. and He accepts us unconditionally right where we are.
As the hall's empty and kids go home, or wherever they go, we want to be there. We want to help them experience God's grace and God's love in ways that they've never imagined before. We want them to see transformed lives. We want them to see something different in us. As it says in the message, we want them to know that our bones are radiating with Christ's love.
They wanted to have a relationship with me, and it wasn't about getting me into their church or into the club or anything like that, but they wanted to be able to get to know who I really was.
I guess the reason why I went to Young Life was because of girls. But after I got to Young Life, it was the amazing fun, the good friendships that were developed, the Young Life leader, how crazy he was, and the fun that we had at club. And it was those deep relationships that were developed not only with the Young Life leader, but all those kids at that time that kept me at Young Life. It was initially the girls, but it was finally those great relationships that kept me there.
I first met Ingrid when she started showing up everywhere I was. I went to softball practice and she was there. I went to junior miss practice and she was there. I ended up going to my friend Sarah's house for what ended up being Young Life, and sure enough, there was Ingrid.
My older brother got me involved in Young Life. He started going and then started inviting me, and his friends were going, and they didn't treat me like a young underclassman, and he made me feel comfortable there. So I was attracted by the people there.
I really felt accepted. There were a lot of times when I would go to church or to youth group and, you know, having a giant belly and no ring on my finger, I got a lot of looks. And Young Life was one of the places that I could go, and I know that people wouldn't judge me, and they knew who I was before and after, and they loved me regardless.
It didn't sound like I was just another kid doing stuff wrong. It told me about a God that loved me, and that was just something that like blew my mind away, because growing up I'd gone to church and like, you know, I had a good idea, you know, yeah, God's that one guy that's in control of everything, but I'd never heard it in a way that God loves you no matter what. And no matter what you go do after you leave club, like God still loves you.
We go to where kids are. It's something we call contact work. That's going to football games. That's going to the skate park. Anywhere kids are is where we want to be. On top of that, we do our weekly just hangout. It's a big party. It's a place where kids get to be kids. They can laugh, sing, have fun. We literally call it controlled chaos. It's club.
My twin brother and I got involved in Young Life in high school, and our Young Life leader, Paul Spence, introduced us to Young Life, but also introduced us to Christ. My son Gavin's been to Young Life camp. My daughter went this past summer. And the difference that Young Life has made, it's been that sustaining group that she's felt not only a part of, but it's provided leadership skills for her and given her a boldness here at school.
From that, we hope to go to the next step, discipleship. Small groups where you and your kids and their leader get to interact. Leaders get to ask questions and honestly listen to their answers, to hear them. It's something we call campaigners. A weekly small group where a leader and kids get together and live out life together.
This year alone, before school has even started, I've talked to 4 or 5 kids who have had a life-changing experience with Young Life at camp. It's been a wonderful opportunity for them, and they're excited to be an example for Christ during the year.
I think something that happened in my life this year where Young Life really impacted me and continues to impact me was camp. When I was in high school, I wanted to go to camp, but I was trying to raise money for college, and so there was a choice of, do I go to camp or do I go to college? My mom was an alcoholic and she had hit bottom, so I was on my own. But God didn't forget that desire for me to go to camp. So this year, I became involved in Young Life again and realized, wow, I'm going to camp. And it was probably the most amazing experience that I've had in a long time. I went as a leader, but also as a camper. And to watch the kids hear the gospel and to go through that with them and to go through the events as a camper and a leader was amazing.
We want to be a friend to our high school friends. We want them to experience Christ in all we do. We want them to know that no matter what brokenness, no matter what stuff's going on around them, that they aren't alone, that they aren't in this all by themselves. that we as leaders can walk through their lives with them, experiencing it together. So we all learn to hear and experience Christ's love more than anything else. That is our number one priority.
Christianity is all about what Christ did. It's not about what we do. And that's what's really communicated through Young Life, and that's why I think it's so successful. It's why I like being involved with it as much as I do.
I praise God for Young Life.
We will continue as long as the light of Christ and His grace are needed in this broken world. It's the Great Commission that we walk out every day.
I'll never forget my Young Life leaders, Gary and Judy Hopkins,
Bill Matson,
Paul Spence.
I will never forget my Young Life leader, Ingrid.
Gary Parsons.
Jim Stuck.
and my life will never be the same.
And my life will never be the same.
My life will never be the same.
Thanks for being a part of our Young Life story.